Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Jeffries, regulations that are meant to enhance security should not be overly burdensome. And we're going to get to the gentlelady's point, because I think that's an important conversation. But regarding rail, the operation of our rail systems is absolutely critical to the performance of our nation. The historical significance of rail systems working in a cooperative manner with every sovereign state's government and local municipalities, and with operating under federal regulation, and with thousands and thousands of industry stakeholders that are required to plug into the rail systems. It's quite a complex thing when you really look at it. So the regulations that the federal government places upon you, intended to enhance security, yes, of course, but in my assessment is that they're far too burdensome and can interfere with business, as the gentlelady pointed out. But how does that relate to financial cost? Do you find that in your interactions with TSA, and the effort to enhance security regulations and cyber threat for rail, is there fair and due consideration given to the financial impact to the rail industry?
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. You know, we've been at this a long time. You kind of referenced that, about 200 years of moving goods around the country and doing it to a high degree of safety. And we take our responsibility with the utmost of seriousness to move goods safely and securely, because we move all variety of goods that Americans rely on every single day. And cybersecurity is a key portion of that. And as I mentioned, we've been at that since before the year 2000, in advance of Y2K. And we have had a productive, positive relationship overall with the TSA. Certainly can't say that for every government agency, so it's worth highlighting that. But to your point, we've got to think about the cost benefit equation. And so, to my colleague's point, are we spending more time checking boxes and fulfilling requirements for requirements' sake, or are we maximizing security for maximizing security's sake? And certainly there's a cost, there's a financial cost, there's a human resource cost, there's a physical and digital asset cost.
So is that fairly evaluated, is my question, in your interaction with TSA? Is the financial impact fairly evaluated?
So I would say it's acknowledged. Whether or not it's fairly evaluated, I'll let you know when we file our comments once we get through this massive rule.
Okay, well, I'll take that as your answer. Be reassured, and for your partners across the country, and we are watching that. I mean, the financial impact is significant, and it has to be part of the formula.
I would quickly say that I think that's why it's so important that you have a designated problem you're trying to solve, an outcomes-based approach versus an inputs-based approach. And so that's a core philosophy of ours. And
well, that's a common sense answer, sir. I'm not sure that's allowed in D.C.
Okay, fair enough.
Ms. Denbo, you see, quoting you, you said that the government essentially seeks control or possession of your critical infrastructure systems, and you're saying that in order for the government to check your cybersecurity compliance, the government is compromising your cybersecurity infrastructure. And this is exactly the conservative perspective of government overreach. So would you please expound upon that? And what would be your suggestion to the federal government to get the hell out of your way and let you protect your systems?
Thank you for that colorful
opening. AGA, the American Gas Association, we support reasonable cybersecurity regulations. From the natural gas utility perspective, we do not just have to answer to the federal government, we also answer to their state public utility commission. And for that, we are required to do long-term planning. And so we need a system, we need reasonable regulations that are not constantly changing so that we can do that long-term planning and justify the expenses for the sake of security. We applaud TSA for sticking with the performance-based approach. What we need TSA to do is to rely on the fact that, one, reasonable cybersecurity regulations have to be attainable. The operators have to be able to achieve them. They have to be sustainable. The operators have to be able to sustain them and keep them going. Otherwise, it's wasted money. And then TSA fills that last part is for them to be auditable. That's the part where we're always bumping heads. And that is because there are ways where TSA can audit and verify without having to take possession of our critical infrastructure information.
Because when you say taking possession, you mean that they're documenting your security mechanisms you have in place, and therefore they're exposing your security mechanisms themselves to breach by the cyber threat operators and bad actors across the world. Is that essentially what you're saying?
In a nutshell, basically, it is rather than showing what they would like is to get a copy. And we have no problems showing TSA that information. Where the challenge is when that information physically or electronically leaves our environment.
I understand. Oh, you have my commitment to address that. That's precisely the kind of thing we intend to push back against. Mr. Chairman, my time is well expired. Thank you for this hearing. I yield.